If saving the world means you have to kill someone, would you throw yourself into the abyss? Fidaiel, facing the child Serene, who became the seed of rain in the sea of the sky. On the 8th night, the wingless beast, Tarva, begins the story of the magnificent miracle. Created in the sky, the birth of a rainbow. Wait! Your likes and subscriptions are a great help in creating stories. As the 8th candle was lit, a heavy silence enveloped the temple, reminiscent of the calm before a storm. Shara felt the enormous shadow of Naxar, which she couldn't see, flickering behind her, more intense and sharp than usual. The master of the desert, Naxar, asked in a low, deep voice, "Tell me about the cruel promise made by the sea of the heavens. I wonder what the end of that foolish mercy was." At Naxar's question, Shara quietly bowed her head and continued her story. O Naxar, the sea of the heavens, was more radiant than any jewel, but the laws that sustained it were more brutal than the droughts of the earth. Fidaiel had to make the most solitary and passionate choice as a warrior there. The morning of the promised ritual has arrived. The villagers of the Sky Sea gathered at the hole in the sky in the center of the village, wrapped in white cloth from head to toe. Ella stood at the edge of the hole, holding Serene's hand with a dazed expression. At the moment, the elder was about to chant a spell and push the child into the abyss. Fidaiel burst out, shoving people aside. "Stop! This child is not a seed that must die, but a living being." In the blink of an eye, Fidaiel snatched Serene and held her in his arms. The moment I held the child in my arms, I felt the pounding of Serene's heart. That small heartbeat, racing in fear, was the last breath of the comrades he couldn't protect. In the sea of the earth, and the weight of a life that this world takes so lightly, under the pretext of a great cause, Fidaiel hugged the child, even tighter, as if responding to that heartbeat. "Tarvaba is crazy! He stole the seeds of rain. Catch that filthy beast!" The cries of the residents of the sea and the sky have erupted. Fidaiel dashed into the foggy cloud forest, using the sound of the child's heartbeat as a guide. However, it was not easy for him, burdened by the weight of the earth, to escape from the sea and the sky. At that moment, the silver cloud net, swung by the elder from behind, flew like lightning and wrapped around Fidaiel's legs. Gah! The residents quickly piled on top of Fidaiel, who had fallen to the ground. Bound by the net and unable to move, he exhaled roughly and lifted his head. Below the hole in the center of the village, the parched earth was visible, cracked from the drought, as it had not rained. The oasis had dried up, and the people of the desert were collapsing, squeezing their throats that felt like they were burning. The elder pressed his staff against Fidaiel's chest and whispered coldly, "Look, Tarva, your pathetic compassion is turning everything on this earth to ash. If you do not offer the seeds of this rain, the thirst of the earth will never end. Protecting the lives on this earth, this is our sacred duty." Fidaiel struggled desperately in the net. The Serene in his arms was terrified and clutched his tattered clothing tightly. Killing others for the greater good, like Tarek, was madness, but his own inability to do anything was a sin. just as great as that madness. Fidaiel quietly sent Serene back into Alara's embrace, as if he had made a resolution. Then he gripped the net that was binding him tightly and stared at the elder. Forcing others to sacrifice for a greater cause is enough with just the selfishness of this world. But if what the abyss desires is a living heart, then I will soak this burning land with the heart of Tarva. Fidaiel, wrapped in a cloud net, threw himself boldly towards the hole in the sky. As Tarva's hot red blood mixed with the cold mist of the clouds, it turned into a rain shower. The sadness he felt turned into a blue light, his anger into a red light, and the warrior's will to protect the child transformed into a golden light. All of Fidaiel's emotions melted into the rainwater, soaking the parched earth below. In the place where the rain stopped, as sunlight broke through the clouds, a brilliant seven-colored bridge, never seen before in the world, was laid over the desert. It was Fidaiel's final testament left on earth, given with his life, and the most beautiful miracle. People called that phenomenon the rainbow. However, the gaze of humans, who should be rejoicing at the grateful rain that soaked the earth, was actually directed elsewhere, not at the fertile soil, beneath their feet that endured suffering. Look, the god's gold is buried at the end of that bridge. No, that is the staircase to heaven. Whoever reaches the end shall attain eternal life. The miracle of the sacred duty, written in blood by Fidaiel, began to be distorted into the legend of desire by humans blinded by greed, as the 8th candle of the shrine flickered and began to extinguish. The massive shadow of Naxar whispered low behind Shara. I thought it was foolish mercy, but that one has laid a 7-colored bridge to the heavens. But look at the foolish humans. They have no interest in the nobility of that warrior. It's only an illusion that cannot be grasped. There was a deep mockery mixed in Naxar's voice. In the end, the value he longed for is nothing but an illusion. What is there at the end of it? Shara replied quietly, bowing her head as if gazing at the distant end of a rainbow with unseen eyes. Naxar, I will tell you about the people who chased the rainbow. As the 8th candle burned down, Shara stopped her story. All right. Tomorrow, I will hear about the illusions of those foolish humans. As the presence of Naxar recedes, the darkness completely lifts, and a bluish dawn light seeps outside the temple, signaling the beginning of a new morning of life. The brilliant rainbow, born from the sacrifice of Fidaiel. However, humans are captivated by the illusions of the sky. The story of a man who set out to find the gold at the end of the rainbow continues on the 9th night. Have you ever had an experience where you put yourself aside to help someone else? Please leave your stories in the comments.